This right here is the KSO Show, your home for K-State coverage. Stay current on what's happening in the Wildcat world of sports. By the end, you might want to tell your friends about us. Or not. But hey, you should. Let's get it.
It is an on-location edition of the KSO Show today, which is presented to you, as always, by Tallgrass Tap House back in Manhattan. We're not at Tallgrass today, which is too bad because we love Tallgrass. We love going on the roof. It's a great place. But we are at Jimmy's Grill today in Naperville, Illinois, right outside of Chicago. This is a nice place, DY.
I like it. I enjoy it.
We've been here. I mean, this is Wednesday. We've been here. We got here late last night. We went to a what was the pizza place called? Lou
Malnati's.
And it was wonderful. Like, I love pizzas. That was exciting. Just been a great town. Like, we get to travel a lot. We're fortunate we get to, and we've seen a lot of cool places. You know, like Austin's fun, and San Jose's fun, and San Francisco, and Morgantown, and Waco. The last one was maybe a joke.
Maybe the last two.
Who knows? But I was saying, you know, to these guys earlier, like, this feels like the most like a combination of cool and like homey. Like, I could live and be thrilled to live in Naperville, although it'd be hard to do the job.
Yeah, you've actually mentioned that quite a bit. I think Matt might accidentally move here.
It could happen. I'm sure it's real expensive, though, and fancy. But anyway, like I said, we're at Jimmy's Grill. We'll be eating dinner and stuff actually during this, so if you hear a waitress come up, she's plenty nice. Don't worry about that. What we want to do today is, since, you know, it's camp season, we're here for camp, of course, to go watch a number of prospects that K-State will have a lot of coaches watching. So before we get into what we're doing, which is I want to take a deep look into K-State football recruiting, this will be one of those podcasts where if you're listening and you're a member of the site, you're going to say, why did you give this away for free? And if you're not a member, you're going to say, well, thanks for telling us all that for free. So we're just going to let it all go today. We want a good long podcast, really on football recruiting. But before we get into going position by position, Derek, like I kind of want to do, I just wondered if you could recap to us a little bit where you've been so far, you know, what camps you've seen, and kind of what the process has been for you so far this camp season.
Yeah, I think I've been to 3 camps already, and 2 of them are in St. Louis. We went to the 3-stripe camp over in St. Louis, the Rivals 3-stripe camp. East St. Louis. Yeah. That's a little bit different than St. Louis.
Yeah.
And then I was back at St. Louis a week later for the Lindenwood University camp at Kansas State. I had a few coaches in attendance, like Coach Klanderman, Coach Rain, Coach Riley, and a couple of graduate assistants as well, like Sam Young and Jake Vang. Then I think it was 3 nights ago. Yeah, 3 nights ago, Sunday night, we were at the Kansas State first one-day camp of the season in Manhattan, and we saw 5 prospects get offered. Obviously, there was another one that already offered in Wyatt Black, the lineman prospect out of Minnesota. So they walked away with 6 guys offered from that camp, and we're in Naperville for this afternoon and evening for today's camp. And I would imagine, we don't know exactly who's going to be there, but I would anticipate someone getting offered again.
I would think so, too. It's going to be a good group. We know that. We know, again, a number of K-State coaches will be here. Joe Klanderman, for sure, as Derek's done a great job of teaching about on the site and on the board. This is really his area. But he won't be alone, Derek. I think there'll be a big group of coaches here today to watch these kids around Chicago.
Yeah, I know the preliminary plans were to have 5 assistants here today. Coach Anderson, I wouldn't say he's under the weather, a little dinged up right now.
Oh my goodness, he is. He's fine, but
he's fine, but he's got a little bit of a complication that has limited his travel in the last week. I don't know if he'll be able to make it today, but he, of course, I believe had every intention of doing so at one point.
One last thing before we get into this, DY. I'm not trying to sound real salesman-y here, but if you're not subscribing, we'd love you to subscribe. Because I think what Derek does is unique. I think it's always been the case. I mean, with the amount of interaction, he has with people who know what they're talking about and what he knows about it. But I think him going to all these camps is unique. And this won't be it. I mean, not to, again, super horn tootin' Flanders as you sit over there. But, I mean, we're going to finish this camp tonight outside of Chicago. Then we're going to get in the car as soon as it's over. We're going to drive all the way back to Manhattan through the night. No rest for, these guys. We'll get back to Manhattan, 4 in the morning. And then those guys are going to sleep, and then the next day, Flanders and DY are going to get in the car again and drive down to Commerce, Texas, I believe. I'm going to stay back. Me and Red are going to go to K-State's basketball camp and try to get the scoop in there. But so those guys are going to, drive to Commerce, and they're going to drive to Nacogdoches, so they're going to be at more camps on Friday and Saturday. We'll be other places, too. And I think some people maybe newer to the recruiting game are like, we haven't heard why. We've heard nothing but thanks for you going to these things, so not a lot of whys. But why does it matter? I mean, like, you could – sit around and cover recruiting, looking at Twitter and that kind of stuff. Like, why do you go to all these things?
I think it's, well, for one, I think the best evaluation is always going to be an in-person evaluation because you get an idea of how they are testing, what they are testing, environment and surroundings does play a huge factor. And this is not to begrudge anyone, but we saw Cody Stufflebean work out, and some of the things that they do with the outside of the performance can sometimes dictate maybe your feelings about someone or understand why maybe they didn't test as well or didn't take as many reps. He's a little bit more of a timid of a personality. Right. That doesn't mean he's not the right personality for a certain program. Everyone fits differently and everyone has their role, but he's a little bit more timid and therefore didn't really race to take reps like a little bit more of an aggressive personality. Sometimes those things are important to know when you're considering or when you're evaluating a performance, and you won't know that if you're just watching it from a Twitter account. So that's just one example, and obviously you're going to be able to, in these settings, also be able to talk to their parents, talk to their coaches, and with that you learn more about the kid and his performance and maybe when his development took place or how much more potential he could have based on how he has grown thus far. And obviously part of this business is wanting to know where this kid might go or who offered him or who might offer or who was interested, and establishing those relationships is key to obtaining that information. And obviously meeting them face to face is a little bit more personal, interactive, and meaningful than direct message them on a Twitter account, which I have to sometimes resort to as well, but it's a little more meaningful and it's more positive and lasting when we're actually there.
You're listening to Derek Young there on KSO Show, presented by Tallgrass Tap House. We're actually, though, at Jimmy's Grill in Naperville, Illinois, just outside of Chicago. Flanders is running the board. No mic for him today. So what I want to do, DY, is go position by position. So before the recruiting season started, you and I spent some time, we broke down, if K-State were going to sign a 25-man class, which for the record, they could probably sign, we talked about this earlier, up to 27, 28, depending on some countbacks. But for argument's sake, a regular 25-man class, how do we think they would allocate the scholarships? Because I think when you're new to either following recruiting or covering recruiting, whatever it is, you can't just throw names out there and say, oh, they're recruiting this kid, with no point of reference of what do they need at certain positions and how many are they going to take. Because I think knowing a likely number of what they're going to take gives you a sense of how you have to prioritize. Now, again, the numbers we're going to throw out, Derek and I came up with these. They're not from K-State. So, one, they're not perfect. And then two, they're going to change because they're going to find kids they love at positions that they want to. So they'll steal one scholarship from the offensive line to give to another defensive end or whatnot. Or, again, maybe they'll sign 28. But these numbers are based on a 25-man recruiting class. I'm going to tell you how many we thought before the season they're going to sign, and then Derek's going to kind of talk about where they're at for that number. So quarterbacks is first on the list. K-State's got 4 on scholarship. They want to sign 1 every year. There'd probably be some scenarios where they sign 2, depending on things, like what if Chris Herron changed positions, that kind of stuff. But probably looking at 1. Give us the names at quarterback that we should be keeping the closest eye on, DY.
Yeah, they'll always want to keep 4 or 5 on the roster. So 1, and then, and if something unexpected happens, if they were to, I wouldn't rule out a second one, but if that were to happen, it would probably come later in the cycle when they have more information at their disposal. The 2 main names are Will Howard and CJ Stroud. Those are still what I consider the top 2 prospects. They're not going to wait forever on them and become kind of victims of circumstance. So if it becomes too tight or they feel like they're waiting and they're getting a little impatient or uncomfortable because they don't want to be left at the altar with nobody there with them, then I could foresee an offer to Hunter Deckers, who they had at camp, and I think he's right, would probably be the next quarterback offered, unless I'm crazy. It seems like he's the next on the pecking order to receive his scholarship. Chubba Purdy is also in the scenario, the situation. He's in the mix somewhere. I think if you wanted to commit, they would take it, and he is visiting today, Wednesday, at Kansas State. But he's in the middle of a tour where he's visiting a lot of schools. So I'm not saying that Kansas State won't take him. I'm just not sure how high his interest is in Kansas State at this point.
Very well said. I watched probably because, you were more mobile. You went inside of the complex to watch some of the big guys play. You were all over the place. I just sat at the stadium. I watched every throw Deckers had at camp. I was very impressed. I don't pretend to be a talent evaluator. I'm not. I think I know football like a regular guy, but I can't sit here and tell you this kid's better than this kid at quarterback because of this. But you hear like a general term like strong arm. That's not just getting tossed out there. He has an extremely strong arm. He is a full, I think Derek would agree, 6'2", 225 or so. We talked to his dad for a long time. His dad's probably 6'4" and continued to grow after college. Deckers does have offers, just a new one from Purdue. You got one from Indiana. So it's a kid who's certainly a Power 5 player. I think K-State, he's from a very small school. I think Derek watched the video because of this team he played. He's kind of raw. There's questions like how is he going to lead like a program as a quarterback, that kind of stuff. But from a pure physical arm strength size standpoint, I was a big fan.
Yeah, he's well built too. He looked like he could probably be a power lifter at some point as well.
Yep, I think he runs in the mid 4.6s and the 40s. So pretty good. Running back, we'll move on to. Derek's had a lot of praise, rightfully so. They went from 0 scholarship running backs, tailbacks, to 6 scholarship tailbacks now. So they're in great shape. Great shape compared to what they were in. We projected them to take 2 running backs. They've already taken 2. They already have Chris Vaughn or Deuce Vaughn and Jamar Mosey, who you saw at Lindenwood. I'll ask you, let's try that first. So you saw Mosey in Lindenwood. The story is the speed. Of course, we'll talk about that and what else you saw from him.
Yeah, Keon Mosey ran at 4.3840 at the Lindenwood camp, and another, I would guess, called a source that saw him as well said that I wasn't able to see everything that he did because there's a number of kids there at that camp, so nobody could lay a finger on him. So he certainly was one of the standout running backs at that camp, and speed is certainly what he is known for. He's probably got more straight line speed than Vaughn. Vaughn probably has more lateral speed than Mosey, but they both can still do what the other does as well, and they should complement each other despite both being hybrid backs. But because they are both hybrid backs, I would expect them to take a third running back just
Same.
because I think they need it, but still need a little bit more of a traditional back, especially when they're going to lose 2 traditional backs because both James Gilbert and Jordan Brown will only be around for 1 semester.
Exactly.
One more semester.
And that's an example where we thought 2 made the most sense because they had 2 leaving. They have 4 young ones. But again, we were guessing some at that, and now 3 looks to make sense. And again, if that number bumps to 3, and I don't want to keep making this point, but I just want people to follow along and understand how this, this game works. If you're taking a third running back and you're only giving 25 scholarships, one of the other spots is going to be less. And less, of course, you're up to 28, 27, 29 because of countbacks, which is possible. Fullback, H-back, DY probably done. They have Christian Moore. We had him down for 1. I don't imagine more is going to happen there. We're going to get through the offense, I think, and we'll probably take a mini break, come back for segment 2 and do all the defense. But another position, maybe the most interesting one to me, is wide receiver. We have them down for needing 3. They've lost Isaiah Zuber, who's transferred to Mississippi State. That doesn't really change the need for number, in this class because that was a senior anyway. But you have lost him. Hunter Rison indefinitely suspended. Probably not somebody they're counting on from a recruiting perspective. They're probably imagining they're not going to have him. So now I'm looking at, we have down 3. I still think 3 is the right number. And you've told us some names. You've had some names on your big board. But this is one position where there hasn't been an obvious, Will Howard at quarterback or Deuce Vaughn at running back or Cody Stufflebean at, DN tight end. Like receiver, there's not one name that I've heard you say way more than anybody else.
No, and that's probably going to be a part of the territory when it comes to Kansas State just because of the offensive system they run. It's going to be, I know we've used this a lot, and it's not always going to be the case just in general, but it's going to be easy to recruit against Kansas State or at least negatively recruit Kansas State when it comes to the receiver position just because receivers want to get touches, and there's not going to be as many touches in the Kansas State system for a receiver because, 1, they throw the ball less, and 2, I think they probably take less offensive snaps too because they want to control the ball and run the clock out as well and limit the amount of possessions and limit the amount of snaps that are in a football game. So it's going to be easy to negatively recruit Kansas State at the wide receiver position due to that. Still a couple names that have been kind of out there, Thaddeus Johnson and Malik Johnson. Those are 2 wide receivers, I think both from the state of Texas that they're recruiting. And outside of that, there hasn't been a lot of traction. They were recruiting Daniel Jackson, the receiver out of Bishop Liège, but that also, because of the system, looks like it's probably getting away from them and probably already has. I'm not sure there's actually a lot of interaction between him and the coaches at this point. So not a lot of obvious names, probably not even one real obvious name to really point to a wide receiver, but I imagine they go to all these camps. They could find one that, tickles their fancy, so to speak. And another point I want to make too is we have them down for 3, and it's probably going to be 3 high school wide receivers. I would think probably solves the numbers to an extent, but because you are probably going to lose Rison, and I don't know if they're going to have enough time to grab a graduate transfer wide receiver to their liking before the season starts. Just looking at their depth chart and what they'll have returning for next year, this would actually be a good spot for possibly a junior college player.
It certainly would be. I mean, yeah, I've got to pull it up in front of me so I can cheat. But I mean, so if you're just safely assuming Ryzen not back on the team, all you would have would be a junior Chabastin Taylor, who at that point, we all kind of like Chabastin Taylor's, potential, whatnot, hasn't really played yet. Malik Knowles would be a sophomore. You'd have Wyking Gale could be on scholarship, of course, but there's not a lot of upperclassmen help there. You're absolutely right. A position where they're not going to have probably as much trouble, attracting talent because of the style of offense, may be tight end. There was at least two names, at the camp that we were at this past Sunday in Manhattan. One being Cody Stufflebeam, but he may not be a tight end. You can talk about that. But Cody Stufflebeam and Will Swanson from Nebraska, two names who were at camp and both have left with offers.
Yeah, Will Swanson was someone I think started out with the defensive lineman, because I saw when I went into the indoor facility to see the lineman, they immediately were taking him from the defensive lineman and taking him to the outside to work with the tight end. So that's not someone I got to see a bunch. You probably did see him a little bit more,
yep.
So you could probably expand on just what you might have seen from him.
It was interesting. What I saw 2 reps from him at tight end specifically because, Courtney Messingham came back out and said, hey, I need you to run a couple of routes. And the quarterback he yelled, hey, Deckers, come throw a couple routes to him. So he did. Interestingly enough, the first route they ran, he ran a great route, very crisp, but flat dropped the ball from Deckers. And Messingham joked, he said, man, I'm bringing it for one play, and you put it on the ground. But it was a kind way he was saying it to him. He made him feel at ease, and he's like, just run it one more, you'll be fine. Ran it again, very crisp route, easy catch, not with his body, with his hands. So they knew before that. I'm sure they wanted to offer him from what they saw inside with athleticism, but the 2 was enough. We have them down taking 2 tight ends. I still think that's probably a safe number. I think they'll try to take 2, DY.
Yeah, and they probably almost wanted to see him respond. It was put him in that kind of setting, a little bit more high pressured, and just any bounce back and made the catch. And it's they're looking for that stuff as much as anything too, because
exactly
leadership, ability under pressure, that stuff matters too. It's not as big of the equation as the talent and everything else, but it's part of it. I do think they'll probably take 2. I think they need to. Maybe it becomes 1 if they can land the Rutgers or transfer Travis Vokalek, because he would miss this season and come back for the 2020 season. So he'd be like a 2020 tight end in this class. So maybe he could be the second, and they only chase 1 high schooler. And Swanson in particular, I think he's Kansas State's to lose as long as he doesn't get a Nebraska offer at camp. And it's not like, oh, yeah, we're second fiddle. Well, most people here listening.
State, man.
Yeah, most people here grew up a Kansas State fan, and they got that offer to be hard to turn down as well. So that's probably what it comes down to and how that one's going to play out. Cody Stufflebeam wasn't fantastic at this camp. He was probably a little bit better as a defensive end, and he got the offer after he did reps at defensive end right in front of head coach Chris Kleiman at the indoor facility. I don't think they made their mind up where they're going to begin him at, but at least for this camp in particular, it seemed like they liked what they saw, perhaps a little bit more at the defensive end, which is certainly a little bit interesting.
That's the sense I got, too. I mean, and if push came to shove, right, they could take all 3. They could take Vokalek. I'm probably saying his ring on, but Vokalek. They could take Will Swanson and Cody Stufflebeam and take 3 tight ends. They might even use 3 tight ends, you know? But, and then they could see what if Stufflebeam's better at D end.
Yeah, I mean, that's what a lot of college programs do, and especially with Kansas State. And we're going off the 25 number, but they can probably grab a few more. So you also take best player available in some of these cases too, and if all 3 want to come, what I foresee them doing, you take those kids that you like the most, and obviously they've offered all 3, and you figure it out later.
Exactly. I think we're going to wrap up the offense with the offensive line, then we'll take a break and come back here from Jimmy's Grill in Naperville. But the offensive line's interesting. It's one that we pegged for 4. I already think that's low because, and you know this all better than me, but they've got Sam Shields, who they like, who showed up at camp too. I think this is more or less to watch and be around. But he's more of a guard. Is that correct?
I believe
Sam
so.
Shields, probably so. And I think you got a pretty good insights that they need help at tackle. So if they've already got 1 commitment, that's it. Then we still only have 3 spots left. I think they're taking more than 3 more, in my opinion, if they can, because of the amount of help they need to tackle. And there's 100 names you could talk about, but just give us a few of the offensive line to look at what you think of that position before we head to break.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I wonder if they don't add. I think they're going to add at least 5 offensive linemen, with Shields part of that group. Maybe even 6 if it's the right 6, and they can keep that group together. It's obviously hard to keep a class of 6 together. One's definitely going to be. They're at least going to take 1 junior college transfer, and they're hoping it's Jacob Gamble, and they hope to have him on campus soon. He's a junior college offensive tackle out of Iowa Western. They're going to have to take a JUCO offensive tackle, and they should have everything right to sell a JUCO offensive tackle at this point too, because there is nobody on this roster right now that'll be back next year that I think is the type of offensive tackle that they want to win with.
Absolutely.
There's some that they might be forced to win with, but they would rather some of those be inside that right now they're being forced to play on the outside. They're going to take a swing at Jalen St. John, and he's probably going to commit to Illinois this summer, I think. But I also think that they still think because it is Illinois and there could be some wiggle room there at the end, that there could be something at the end of the cycle still left that they want to recruit Jalen St. John. So it might technically end, or not technically, but theoretically end this summer, but I don't think they will think that it's the end. And some of these names I'm also already losing track of, but I know Ariante Ursary is a offensive tackle from Kansas City that they just offered.
It's easier to spell once you hear it like one time.
Yeah.
At first I was like, can you slow down on that? Give me Ariante Ursary again. But it's just Arion like Vontae Davis with an Arion in front of it.
Yep, offensive tackle out of Ruskin High. He impressed at the Lindenwood camp in St. Louis, and he impressed me too. He's one of my favorites, and I saw him probably 2 years ago, I think. I was at the A-10 varsity combine in Kansas City, and he was probably still a defensive end at some point. I think he was 6'4", 212 pounds. Fast forward to now,
he's still
not even
football.
2 years later, or about 2 years later, and now he's 6'5", 290 pounds, and is one of the top offensive tackles that I've seen. So Ariante Ursary is someone that they really, really like. They offered, I think they wanted to see him at camp before they offered, but they were their hand was forced a little bit because Minnesota offered, and Minnesota's going to have him on campus for a visit this weekend. So they knew that they were probably going to have to offer if it was someone that they wanted to move on, and they did that. And I think K-State's going to have to make they're going to have to recruit him really, really hard between now and when he visits Minnesota, because they know what can happen when he visits Minnesota. So they're working right now between now and then to make sure that even after he visits Minnesota, he still gives them a shot at a visit as well.
I think this is a position as we wrap up this segment, brought to you, of course, by Tallgrass Tap House. Rooftops open this summer. Go hang out there. We legitimately do. That's not just a line. You can go to Bourbon and Baker and Harry's, too. They're also great times. Appreciate the sponsors. We're going to come back. We're going to talk defensive line, the defensive tackle, defensive end, and move the rest of the defense. And we'll continue this thread of maybe there's some guys we're talking about a defensive end who maybe are offensive tackles, because this staff will look at guys at multiple spots. So for Derek Young, Matt Hall, Grant Flanders running the board. We'll take a break. Be right back on the KSO show from Naperville. Back, segment 2, KSO show, presented as always by the Tallgrass Tap House at Points in Manhattan, as well as 2 other fine eating establishments on Points in Manhattan and Bourbon and Baker and Harry's. We're at a different eating establishment today in Naperville, Illinois, just outside of Chicago, at Jimmy's Grill. We had the same meal, exactly, DY. That's good. Flano had fish and chips.
Yeah, the tenders.
So I guess we just kind of gave away the secret that we broke to eat. You know, segment 1 and segment 2, the break was clearly to eat. So now they know.
And a beer.
It wasn't, yeah, that's true. We do have a beer. What do you have? What is that?
Lagunitas Daytime.
We're stealing from Bosco Boys Beer of the Pod. That's I have let's see. Let me look at the list here. Flanders is having what is that, Flanders?
Arnold Palmer.
Arnold Palmer, that's cute. My menu's gone.
Weak.
I'm having something that is from Illinois, is all I noticed, though. It was pretty good. It's pretty light, though, because we are, on the road, on work, that kind of stuff. Anywho, let's move to the defense. Same thing. Let's start at D-tackle. Now, it's interesting because for the numbers we're talking about, I wrote down 1 for D-tackle. Even though they have 3 seniors, they took 3 freshmen last year. They have a redshirt freshman in Jalen Pickle. So I thought it could be as low as 1, and it still could be. And they've got 1 in Taylor Warner, who you saw at camp Sunday night.
Yeah, Taylor Warner's fantastic. I know I've written a lot about him already on the board and in stories, and then I was on the radio on K-Man, the game on the K-Man with Kurtz yesterday, and said the same thing, echoed it even more. He's fantastic. I saw him at the camp. I never saw him before that. He was not on my radar, so it was a little bit of a surprise to me. And if I didn't know any better, and I didn't at the time, I would have been like, oh, that's probably a high 3-star. So that kind of shows you the kind of the talent they're working with when it comes to Warner. Very flexible, very nimble, just a great athlete for someone that's 6'4" and 265 pounds. And was a developmental project this time a year ago, because he was still probably just a 245, 248 pound offensive lineman, which is why he didn't really have the looks that, a typical recruit that would be rated that high would have. And he visited Iowa State last March, or just a couple months ago in March, and he visited Kansas State in March. Neither one offered. Kansas State offered because they were able to see him in person. Iowa State didn't, but they also haven't seen him in person. They probably won't, because now that he's committed, I don't think he's going to be camping anywhere else. So probably not someone that's going to see his offer list explode until he puts something on tape, and that'll be his senior year.
Like you said, 6'4", 265, and man, I mean, he carries the 265 in that frame as well as you can. I mean, you could have told me he weighs, I mean, this is a compliment. You could have told me he weighed 240, and I'd still believe you because he carries it so well. And then you retweeted some things of him, dunking effortlessly, and he's a good athlete. I mean, I totally respect people who look at a profile and see no picture and see no stars and say, well, this is a reach. And sometimes they are reaches. It just doesn't feel like one.
This doesn't feel like it. I'd have to really sit down and think about it, and I know 247 actually rated him this way already because they put in an evaluation and ranking for them, and I'd almost have to agree. I'm not so sure he isn't the best commit in the class right now.
How about that? I mean, that's a bold statement. I'm not saying it's wrong either. Let's move down the defensive line to defensive end. Now, this is a spot where we projected a ton needed, and I still feel that way. We projected they need 4 at this position because you've got 2 seniors in Kyle Ball and Reggie Walker, and it's not like, the D tackle where they have 4 freshmen, counting Jalen Pickle. There's just 2, Cartez Kirk-Jones and Spencer Trussell, so they need some young talent at this. Again, you've got a lot of names, whether you look at our roster recruiting center, the top 25, there is a commitment there, of course, in Nate Matlack. But defensive end, they could need as many as 3 more. What are some of the names you've been telling us about on the site for people who haven't been keeping up?
Yeah, and some of this is going to probably not reflect the recruiting profiles perfectly, just because I assume some of these defensive names that they have visiting are going to be defensive ends and not tackles, and I feel like some of them might be listed as tackles.
Right.
I wonder about the Jerzon Newton out of Clearwater Catholic.
The new one on your big board.
The new one on the big board, because he set up an official visit for Kansas State in October. I actually do think he is a defensive tackle, so it's interesting. But again, they could take best player available in certain spots also, and he might be one of those. He's obviously, like I said, out of Clearwater, Florida, and holds an offer from Florida State to Miami, and has already set up a visit to Kansas State. So that's a pretty positive. A positive sign moving forward. Other defensive line, they have Ronald Triplett, a defensive lineman out of Houston, Texas. I think he goes to Shadow Valley.
I have it right in front of me, so I'm cheating. It's Shadow Creek.
Shadow
That's the
Creek.
thing is, I know some of these names, but I do have a list in front of me. Derek legitimately doesn't. These are all off the top of his head.
Yeah.
There's no cheating. It's an open book test, man. You could cheat.
Yeah.
But anyway, Ronald Triplett, Shadow Creek, Pearland, Texas.
Yeah, and he's going to take an official visit. That'll be the weekend of June 21st.
Big weekend, right?
That'll be a monster weekend. So those are 2 that come to mind. They have Ollie Gay, too, obviously a defensive end. And maybe a JUCO makes sense here because of who they're losing. That'll be seniors in this upcoming season. And not a whole lot of news just in general on him. He's been pretty quiet ever since he visited Kansas State. We went out to see him in Garden City, obviously, already. So, and he got an Oklahoma offer that same day. We were there with the Oklahoma coach, Calvin Thibodeau.
LSU like the day after.
And he got LSU the day after. But I think in this case, and I know I keep pushing him down the big board, but there just isn't much, to go off of right now. But it might be the case of no news is good news.
Right. A couple other names there that you've shown us about. Linnell Carr, who's had to push back his visit a few times, but you've seen him in camp twice, right? We saw him at I saw him at the three-stripe camp with you.
And I saw him at
Lindenwood, right?
Yeah, he's a pretty good player, and he's someone that really, really likes Kansas State too. And I think Georgia Tech is probably the top dog there. Maybe Maryland.
A couple other campers we saw. Quentin Stewart, we saw at the three-stripe camp in St. Louis. No K-State offer yet. But he'll be in Manhattan for the 7-on-7, I want to say.
Yeah, I think he's going to be on Jake Sharp's team. So,
and maybe even a name that we never know what to say with. Malik Berry is still probably somewhat worth watching. Could play D end depending on what his status is with K-State in general.
Yeah, that's another name, and and his status is probably here again, there again, going back and forth. I did receive some intel within the last week that I think that talks have kind of jump-started between the two sides again, so we'll see.
Will be interesting because that's a position, like I said, we've got 4 listed, as a need of 4. I don't know what's going on, but it's crazy behind me, I assume, here at Jimmy's Grill. I got flustered. But it could be as many as 4, so you're looking at Matlack already, but if you could add Triplett, if you could add Ollie Gay, if you could add, Quentin Stewart, you could add Malik Berry, you could add, Leno Carr.
Cody Stufflebeam.
Cody Stufflebeam could be a DN, absolutely. That's 6 names. So when you hear, plus the commits, so when you hear 4, how are they going to find them? They've got a lot of irons in the fire at DNs. That's a good thing. Let's flip back to linebacker. Again, like DN, I think K-State needs loads of help here. We have them down for needing 4. They lose 3 senior linebackers, and they just need depth and production here. So absolutely need help. Right now, there was a big new offer to come out of camp. I think there's more names to talk about, but Isaiah Childs, Manhattan to Wamego. You watched him in Manhattan Sunday afternoon, evening, and he got an offer from K-State.
Yeah, long, lean, raw athlete on a 6'3" frame that can run fairly well. So that's exactly what Scotty Hazelton. We asked him, what do you want in a linebacker? What do you like in a linebacker? And he's like, I want long, lean, rangy athletes that can run. That fits Isaiah Childs to a T. He just hasn't played linebacker at all, I don't think. So that he's a pretty raw prospect in that regard. It's a deep projection. I'm not like as super high on him as I think Kansas State was. That doesn't mean he's a bad player. He's not. He's a pretty good player. I just wasn't as high on him as they were. At the same time, I do think that in terms of what they were thinking of linebacker, say 6-7 months ago, I think he's an upgrade over what Malik Berry would have projected there. So I still think they're upgrading their target list with him being offered. But he's someone that's a deep projection and someone that they fully believe is best football's ahead of them.
Like defensive end, we say there's a big need, a lot of numbers, but there's a lot of names too. I'll just ask you about 2 more, then we'll move on. A couple from Texas who I think are coming that same weekend. Tell me if I'm wrong, June 21st.
DeMarcus
Hayes and Jeremiah Harris.
Yeah, and I think it's a good I obviously haven't seen either one in person. I hope to. Maybe we'll be able to do so on our Texas trip if they're at any of those 2 camps that we can check out. At the same time, there is I almost want to say an overwhelming amount of buzz that both will leave Kansas State on that visit committed or soon thereafter.
That's why it's a big month. We've talked about K-State at 7 commits right now, which is compared to in the past, in the previous staff. That's a huge number for early June. But, man, I don't think it's crazy to think that when June's over, maybe that number is 11, 12, 13 if you're getting crazy. Is that a possible number at the end of this month for commits, you think?
Yeah, that could be on the lower end. We'll see. They have a real chance to kind of explode throughout this month of June. And just a little plug here. Obviously, we're in and out of this information on a podcast where everyone can listen. But we hope that if you're not a member, you become one.
Please.
Yeah, please. Because we just didn't pop off this information. We just didn't accidentally discover it 2 minutes ago. This is the type of information that I feel like we consistently produce that really, increases the value of our product.
I agree. Let's keep on defense. Let's look at cornerback. Now, K-State has a lot of young corners. If you're looking at freshmen, redshirt freshmen, you've got Echo Boydo, Lance Robinson, Logan Wilson, William Jones, Kenyon Reed. So they've got a lot of youth there, but they still need help. We have them down for taking as many as 3. As many as 3 corners. Another one, from that same area you've mentioned, in Texas, Corey Black worth looking at. Nicole Vinsone is already committed, could be a corner for K-State. So they've done some work there. I don't want to be too repetitive. So are there any names at corner that maybe I've glossed over, we haven't talked about, that you want to include for a move to safety?
Yeah, because I think one's listed as a safety, but I think the recruitment as a corner is JoJo Wilson.
JoJo Wilson.
Out of Houston.
Spider.
Another guy visiting the weekend of June 21st. So be on the lookout. I would be surprised if he did not commit in the month of June.
If we go to safety, there is at least one player I'm very curious to see if here today in Naperville. There'll be dozens of kids, that we don't even know about, that we find out K-State has interest in and talks to. That's why it's good to be here. But I want to ask about Ryan Kilberg, or just safety in general. We only have him down. I want him down for taking 1 safety because they only have 1 senior in Denzel Goolsby. They have Marcus Hayes. We don't know yet if he's sitting out, but he's a young player as a sophomore. They could take 2. They could take more. This staff loves defensive backs, And I was thinking about this the other day, too. They love them as players and coaches because, not only do they have, I think I've got them down for 18 defensive backs on scholarship. They have 4 people coaching those positions. They've got a safeties coach in Klanderman. They've got a corners coach, Malone. They've got Hazelton, who more or less coaches, the nickels. And then sometimes Chris Kleiman will take the nickels, and he's a 4 defensive back. So there's a lot of attention on this position. But safety is what I'm trying to get to talk about. Outside, of Kilberg, and then a guy like JoJo Wilson who could, maybe be a corner. Anybody I'm really missing at safety that you would talk about from that list, or are we waiting to see some names out there?
Fabian Marks is a guy that they like, that they would hope that visited in the summer. He's yet to do so. So maybe keep an eye on that one, but I don't think there's any, obvious or glaring omissions from what we've discussed so far. I'm trying to remember, because I did have a conversation with someone who would know, talking about the number of defensive backs that they plan on taking, and they didn't really, I don't think, delineate it from corner or safety, but they said they'd probably take 4 or 5 in this class. So, and they already have one in McCulvin's on, and they really, really like Corey Black, so that's one of their favorites.
That really runs through it. I don't project, and I don't think you do either, any scholarships being given out to specialists this year. You've got 2 guys in Blake Lynch and Ty Zentner already on scholarship. It could be a certain scenario where there's some walk-ons, whether it's a long snapper, punter, holder, that kind of stuff. But I don't see them actively giving out scholarships to specialists in this class.
The only thing I would foresee, and I don't know, and it could be someone that's already on campus, or it could be someone to recruit, but a long snapper would be the one I would consider being a possibility, or maybe a punter. But how long does Devin Ankle left on scholarship?
Ankle's not on scholarships. I don't have him on this list. I think Ankle's a junior or senior.
So they're going to need a punter at some point, and to get, if they really value, that part of the game, they'll have to offer the one that they really, really want. So, but it also depends if Ty Zentner can punt.
Absolutely, which is something he did both of at Butler, so that's a possibility. If you're looking at a big picture sense, K-State's got 81 scholarship players right now by my count. We're pretty sure that's accurate. You can have 85, so they've got 4 open scholarships. They have 23 scholarship seniors. You do the math there. That's 27, in theory, scholarships you could give out. And I think, we talked at the start of this show, when you count back, they could, in theory, sign 27 kids in the class. And if you do, maybe you tack on an extra offensive lineman to our number. I would say maybe an extra offensive lineman, maybe an extra, maybe D tackle, something like that. Like, they can have the numbers we talked about and sign a couple over 25.
That. Maybe the JUCO receiver if they feel like they need it.
I think that's going to wrap us up. What we do again have coming will be in Naperville today. We might even do a pod in the car on the way home if we're feeling really, really stupid and silly. We're going to be in Nacogdoches. We're going to be in Commerce. We got the basketball camp. That's really a family thing, but I'm going to see if I learn anything from it. And we'll be all over before the rest of this month. We have a number of other camps we're going to go to. The next month, Big 12 Media Day is already in July. And then, holy cow, football season will be here. We got Flanders over here texting basketball kids right now because he's all over that. He thinks he's smart about basketball recruiting all of a sudden. He's a good kid, though, right?
Yeah. So, that's probably something we haven't said yet. So, and next handful of months, Flando's going to maybe start owning a little bit basketball recruiting coverage.
I know.
Are you scared?
Yes. Yeah, terrified about it. It's like giving your kid the wheel to drive the car the first time you've never seen him do it. And I don't know what he's going to say to these kids. What's he going to say? What kind of questions are you going to ask?
Probably like crap.
What if I was a basketball recruit? What do you ask me, huh?
Gosh, what, you ever play 2K?
There you go. See, that's why we want Grant Flanders on it. He's the man. How did this pod sound? You were listening the whole time.
Oh,
How did it sound?
If you're
going to rate us as a recruit, what would you call us?
Oh man, I'd say below average.
Okay. Yeah, I would agree. I appreciate it. So on that note,
not very athletic.
Yeah. Well, I meant as our podcasting skills. You're talking about as skills now.
Yeah, as
a recruit, I would have no stars.
As podcasting skills, you guys are top notch. I edit you guys every day when it comes to
Rivals 100 type guys. Would you say?
Yes. Top 10.
Oh, fantastic. I really appreciate the work by Derek Young, not just been on this pod, but again, a lot of these trips he's going to by himself. I appreciate Derek, got quiet here, and Flando, because they're going to make some rough drives starting tonight, and then of course back on Saturday from Nacogdoches. I didn't tell you this, 13 hours from Manhattan, so
That'll
you guys can figure that part out.
We're going to do it.
The email I sent you, it has all the drive times in there except for that one. I left it out on purpose because I didn't want you to look at it and say 13 hours on the last leg of it.
Easy.
But now you know. Appreciate Jimmy's Grill. They were fantastic. They actually came up and they said, "What are you guys doing? Where are you guys from?" Because they were curious about the podcast setup. They tried to stay out of the way, even though they didn't need to. They're very polite. But for Derek Young, for Grant Flanders, for Matt Hall, appreciate Bourbon Baker, Harry's, Tallgrass Tap House. Please do one thing for us.
Tell your friends.